Have you ever stopped mid-conversation with her, feeling a strange pull in your chest and wondered, am I truly in love? Or am I a prisoner of her shadow? This question feels uncomfortable, almost offensive. And it should, because right now, in this very moment, you might be living the greatest illusion a man can face in relationships. The deception isn't about who the woman you've chosen really is. It's about who you're projecting onto her. What you call love, what keeps you awake at night thinking about her, what makes your heart race when she texts you back. Most of the time, it's not love at all. It's a psychic entanglement, an unconscious possession where you become a hostage, not to her, but to the feminine shadow that lives hidden within your own psyche. You see, every time you've felt that desperate need for her approval, every moment you've lost yourself in trying to please her, every instance where her mood determined your entire day, you weren't experiencing love. You were experiencing something far more ancient, far more primal, and infinitely more dangerous. You were caught in the web of your own unconscious feminine image, what Carl Jung called the anima, twisted and distorted by shadows you've never dared to face. Today, you're about to discover why millions of men confuse psychological possession with genuine love. You'll understand why you keep attracting the same type of woman, why you feel incomplete without feminine validation, and most importantly, how to break free from this invisible prison that's been controlling your relationships since the day you first fell for someone. In the profound depths of Carl Jung's analytical psychology, there exists a truth so uncomfortable that most men spend their entire lives avoiding it. Inside you, right now, lives an image of the feminine that has nothing to do with any real woman you've ever met. This is your anima, shaped by your earliest experiences with your mother, molded by cultural expectations, twisted by collective unconscious patterns that stretch back through millennia of human evolution. When you were a child, before you even understood what relationships meant, your psyche was already forming this internal feminine image. Every interaction with your mother, every fairy tale you heard, every movie you watched, all of it was programming your anima. And here's where it gets dark. When this anima isn't recognized consciously, when you don't even know she exists within you, she operates from the shadows. She hijacks your perception. She creates idealizations that no real woman could ever fulfill. She manufactures obsessions that feel like love, but are actually addictions. She generates emotional dependencies so strong that you literally cannot imagine life without that specific woman. But you need to understand something even more disturbing. Behind the seductive face of your anima, there exists a neglected counterpart that Jung identified, but most people ignore: the feminine shadow. This isn't just some abstract concept. This is a living archetype within you that represents all the hidden, instinctive, chaotic, manipulative, and destructive aspects of the feminine that exist in your male psyche. Think about the last time you fell hard for someone. Remember that intoxicating feeling, that sense that she was different from all the others, that conviction that she understood you like no one else ever could. You weren't seeing her. You were seeing the mirror of your own psyche. And if that psyche is full of unrecognized fragments, childhood traumas, emotional wounds from your mother, unfulfilled needs for nurturing, desperate cravings for validation, then you don't fall in love with the woman. You fall in love with the shadow of her that already lives inside you. Let me paint you a picture of how this actually works in your daily life. You meet a woman. Something about her triggers something deep within you. Maybe it's her laugh. Maybe it's the way she tilts her head. Maybe it's how she seems simultaneously strong and vulnerable. Your conscious mind tells you this is attraction, chemistry, maybe even destiny. But what's really happening is that she's activated your internal anima projection. She becomes a blank screen onto which you project all your unconscious feminine material. If your mother was emotionally unavailable, you might project onto this new woman the fantasy of perfect emotional attunement. If your mother was overprotective, you might project onto her the image of freedom and adventure. Either way, you're not relating to her. You're relating to your own unconscious material that you've painted onto her like an artist painting on canvas. And here's where the shadow aspect becomes truly destructive. The feminine shadow within you doesn't just create pretty projections. It creates dependencies. It whispers to you that without her, you're incomplete. It convinces you that her love is the solution to all your inner emptiness. It makes you believe that if you could just win her over completely, If you could just make her love you enough, then finally, you'd feel whole. But you never feel whole, do you? Because the hole you're trying to fill isn't in your life, it's in your psyche. It's the gap where your conscious relationship with your own inner feminine should be. The relationship then becomes an invisible prison, and you don't even realize you're behind bars. You start noticing recurring patterns that feel like love, but are actually symptoms of possession. Let me show you exactly what I mean. You find yourself checking your phone obsessively, not because you're excited to hear from her, but because her silence triggers an ancient panic within you, the same panic a child feels when mother disappears. Your mood becomes entirely dependent on hers. When she's happy, you're elated. When she's distant, you're devastated. You call this being in tune with her. But what you're really experiencing is a complete loss of your own emotional autonomy. You notice a desperate need for her approval that goes beyond normal desire for connection. Every decision you make, you filter through the question, what will she think? You start changing fundamental aspects of yourself, your interests, your friends, even your values, all in service of maintaining this connection. You tell yourself you're compromising or growing, but deep down, you know the truth. You're disappearing. The anxiety of potential abandonment haunts you even when there's no real threat. She doesn't text back for a few hours, and your mind creates elaborate scenarios of betrayal. She mentions another man's name, and jealousy floods your system like poison. She expresses any form of independence, and you feel a primal terror that she's slipping away. You try to control these feelings, but they control you instead. And here's the most devastating part. You genuinely believe this is what love feels like. You've been conditioned by society, by movies, by music, by the collective unconscious itself, to believe that this desperate, needy, anxious attachment is the pinnacle of romantic connection. Love hurts, and they told you. You can't eat, can't sleep without her, they said. She completes you, they promised. But they lied. Or rather, they didn't understand what they were really describing. What they were describing wasn't love. It was possession by the shadow. What happens in these moments is the activation of an unconscious pact that neither of you signed, but both of you honor. She, often without any conscious awareness, begins to occupy the role of what Jung called the great devouring mother. She becomes simultaneously the source of all nourishment and the prison guard of your psyche. She holds the keys to your happiness, your self-worth, your very sense of existence. And you, without realizing it, you position yourself as the eternal symbolic son, forever needy, forever dependent, forever seeking the breast that will finally satisfy your hunger. But here's the cruel joke. The hunger can never be satisfied because what you're hungry for isn't her love. What you're hungry for is your own wholeness, and no woman, no matter how wonderful, can give you that. The feminine shadow captures you exactly at the point where your own consciousness fails to mature. It finds the little boy within you who never fully separated from mother, who never learned to self-soothe, who never discovered his own internal source of validation and worth, and it exploits that weakness with surgical precision. Every time she pulls away, even slightly, that little boy panics. Every time she shows interest in anything beyond you, that little boy feels abandoned. Every time she expresses her own shadow, her own anger, disappointment, or simple human limitation, that little boy either cowers in fear or explodes in rage because mother isn't being the all-giving breast he needs her to be. You think you're loving her, but you're not. You're using her. Using her as a screen for your projections, using her as a mother substitute, using her as a band-aid for your unhealed wounds. And the saddest part? She's probably doing the same thing to you, projecting her own unintegrated masculine onto you, creating a dance of mutual projections that both of you mistake for intimacy. The shadow feminine within you is cunning. It knows exactly how to keep you trapped. It uses your own nobility against you. It tells you that this suffering is proof of how much you love her. It convinces you that jealousy is just passion, that neediness is just devotion, that losing yourself is just the price of real connection. It even recruits your masculine pride, making you believe that winning her over completely would be the ultimate achievement, the final proof of your worth as a man. But here's what the shadow doesn't want you to know. What you love isn't her. What you love is the illusion your own psyche projects onto her. You're in love with a ghost, a phantom created by your own unintegrated psychic material. And as long as you remain unconscious of this dynamic, you'll never experience real love. You'll only experience varying degrees of possession, projection, and psychological imprisonment. You're not in love. You're possessed. Let that sink in for a moment. Feel the resistance that statement creates in you. Feel how your mind wants to argue, to justify, to explain why your situation is different. That resistance, that's your shadow fighting to maintain control. Because the moment you truly understand this, the moment you see through the illusion, is the moment you begin to reclaim your psychological sovereignty. You're possessed by your own unconscious anima, deformed and twisted by shadows you've never had the courage to face. You're possessed by the unintegrated traits of the feminine within you, the parts that were shaped by your mother's failures, by your culture's distortions, by your own abdication of inner work. But here's the liberation hidden within this brutal truth. Once you see it, you can change it. The exit from this prison isn't through finding the right woman who won't activate your shadows. The exit isn't through becoming so independent that you don't need connection. The exit is through the doorway Jung spent his entire life pointing toward: individuation. True love, the kind that liberates rather than imprisons, the kind that expands rather than diminishes, the kind that creates rather than consumes, doesn't emerge from need, it doesn't spring from idealization, and it certainly doesn't grow in the soil of emotional imprisonment. Real love can only bloom when a man turns his gaze inward, confronts his own shadow, recognizes his projections for what they are, and begins the hero's journey of healing his own wounds. This means doing the work most men spend their entire lives avoiding. It means sitting with your own emptiness instead of trying to fill it with her presence. It means facing the mother wound that makes you seek maternal comfort in romantic partners. It means acknowledging the ways you've been using women as psychological band-aids instead of doing your own healing. When you begin to integrate your anima consciously, when you develop a relationship with your own inner feminine that isn't based on projection but on genuine inner dialogue, something miraculous happens. For the first time in your life, you become capable of seeing a woman as she actually is, not as a savior who will complete you, not as a mother who will nurture your wounds, not as a goddess who will validate your existence, but as a complex, flawed, beautiful human being with her own shadows, her own projections, her own journey of individuation. Only then can you love her without needing her to be anything other than herself. Only then can you appreciate her light without being blinded by it. Only then can you witness her shadow without being consumed by it. Only then can you offer her the gift of being seen, truly seen, rather than being used as a projection screen for your unintegrated psyche. You only love authentically when you no longer need her to complete what you've abandoned within yourself. This is the alchemy Jung dedicated his life to understanding. This is the transformation that awaits every man brave enough to withdraw his projections and face his own psyche. This is the beginning of genuine masculine freedom, not freedom from women, but freedom to love without possession, to connect without fusion, to commit without losing yourself. The question now is, are you ready to see through your own illusion? Are you willing to recognize that what you've been calling love might be your deepest wound in disguise? Are you prepared to do the inner work that real love demands? Because here's the final truth. Every woman you meet from this moment forward will either be another screen for your projections or an opportunity for genuine human connection. The choice isn't hers to make. The choice is yours. And it begins the moment you stop looking for her to save you and start doing the work of saving yourself. Your real beloved isn't out there waiting to be found. She's within you, waiting to be integrated. And when you finally meet her, your own transformed anima, no longer twisted by shadow but illuminated by consciousness, then and only then will you be ready to meet a real woman with real love. This is your wake-up call. This is your invitation to stop being a psychological prisoner and start being a conscious man. The shadow has had its time. Now it's time for you to step into the light of awareness and discover what love really means when it's not contaminated by unconscious possession. What happens next is up to you. But now, at least, you can't say you didn't know. Now that you've seen into the deep unconscious mechanics of what you thought was love, How does this change your perspective on your past relationships? Can you identify moments where you were projecting your own shadow onto someone else? Share your personal experiences and insights in the comments below. Your story might be exactly what another man needs to hear to recognize his own patterns. If this video resonated with something deep within you, if it made you uncomfortable in that way truth often does, hit the like button. Subscribe to this channel if you're ready to explore more of these psychological depths that most people are too afraid to examine. And don't miss our previous videos where we've explored other hidden dynamics of the male psyche. Remember, the journey from unconscious possession to conscious love is the most important journey you'll ever take. It's time to begin.